Hello, my dears. Good morning to all. Welcome to our English class. I am your English teacher, S. Savita. Today we are going to start a new lesson. See, children, this is your fifth lesson. Okay, my dears, do you like guest? Yes, okay. Who is guest, children? Guest means a person who is invited to visit someone's home is called guest. Children, how will you invite your guest? We will invite our guest with a smiling face and we will take a more care. Then we always happy when your guest arrived at home, isn't it? Today we are going to see about the fifth lesson, the guest. The name of the lesson is The Guest. This story was retold by Uma Krishnaswamy. Children, who is the author of this story? Uma Krishnaswamy. She is born on 1956 in New Delhi and she is a good writer and writing teacher. Okay, my dears, before we start the story, I would like to tell you something about Mullah Nasruddin because it is Mullah Nasruddin folk tales. Tales means story. Children like Birbal and Tenali Raman's story. Mullah Nasruddin is also a well-known character of many folk tales. He was a wise man. Children, who was a wise man? Mullah Nasruddin was a wise man and he is remembered for his funniest stories. His stories are sometimes witty, sometimes white, but often too foolish. Then most of his stories have humor and they teach us important lessons. Okay, let's start to read a story. All of you see the book page. The lesson topic is The Guest. See the first line. Nasruddin is a legendary character who appears in many Central Asian folktales. He solves life's problems with a mixture of foolishness, wit, and wisdom. Mullah Nasruddin was a wise man. When he spoke, people listened, and so he chose his words and actions as carefully as kings choose their generals. One day, a rich man invited the mullah to a feast at his house. I would be honored, Mullah Sahib, said he, if you would grace us with your presence tomorrow night. I will come, agreed Mullah Nasruddin, tomorrow night. The following night, the mullah threw on his shabbiest and most comfortable clothes. It is a bit chilly, he said, and added an old black coat. The edges of its shirt sleeves were frayed. The holes in its elbows were patched with swatches torn from old flour sacks. On his feet, Mullah Nasruddin slipped a pair of ragged sandals. When darkness fell, he arrived at the rich man's doorstep. A servant opened the door. What do you want, old man? The servant demanded. Your master has invited me to his feast, said the mullah. The servant peered suspiciously at him. Wait here, he said. I will be back in a moment. The servant went in. His whispers carried to the door. An old beggar man whom my master says he is your guest. The rich man came to the courtyard to take a look. Seeing the old man in his ragged clothes, he waved a hand to the servant, then went back to join his elegant guest. The servant returned to the door. My master does not know you, he said. He invited me to his feast, insisted the mullah. The servant laughed. Nonsense, invited you? A ragged old beggar? My master's friends are noblemen and kings. Be offered before I take a stick to you. So Mullah Nasruddin went home. He changed into his finest silk garments. He put his best cap on his head and added a handsome high-collared coat. He sprinkled rose water on his face and hands. He combed his beard. Smiling to himself, he made his way back to the rich man's house and knocked at the door. Once again the servant opened it. Once again the mullah said, Your master has invited me to his feast. This time the servant bowed respectfully and ushered him in. Welcome, welcome, Mullah Sahib. And the rich man himself showed the mullah to his special seat at the feast. At last, Mullah Sahib said the guest, "We have all been waiting for you." The food arrived. "Serve Mullah Nasruddin first," said the rich man. The mullah smiled at everyone, then he began to get busy with his food. But he did not eat. "Hi, hi!" cried the guest. "Mullah Sahib, what are you doing?" cried the rich man. For Mullah Nasruddin had begun to spoon the soup over his best cap. He crumpled the bread and sprinkled the crumbs over the shoulders of his handsome high-collared coat. He took apart the shish kebab and fed it lovingly to his slaves. The mullah replied, "When I arrived in rags, you turned me away. Now that I am dressed in finery, you treat me with honor. Clearly, it is my clothes you are welcoming and not me. So it is only fitting that they should eat this delicious food you have prepared for them." The rich man hung his head in shame. He said, "Mullah Sahib, forgive me. I was blind. I saw only your clothes and could not recognize the wearer. I will never again judge people by how they look or by the clothes they wear." And in truth, he never did. This story was retold by Uma Krishnaswamy. Let's see the explanation. Children, legendary means what? Legendary means a well-known. Yes, Mullah Nasruddin is a well-known character. He was a wise man and people listened to him because he chose his words very carefully. So the king chose his generals. Generals means ministers. One day he was invited to a feast by rich man and he accepted the invitation. Children, who invited the mullah to his feast? A rich man invited the mullah to his feast. Are you understand, children? Okay, the following night the Mullah Nasruddin wore his most untidy clothes. Untidy means very ugly clothes he wore and got ready to go to the feast, and it was cold night, so he wore an old black coat which was torn, and so he tied patches flour sacks on his elbows, and he also wore pair of ragged sandals and he got ready. When Mullah Nasruddin reached to the doorstep of rich man's house, his servant could not believe that this man has been invited for this feast. He had doubt, suspicious. Suspicious means mistrust. So he stopped him there for a moment. When the servant is informed to his masters after he came for checking the baker, but he couldn't identify Mullah Nasruddin in his ragged clothes. Again, Richmond joined in his elegant guest. One went back and told him that my master doesn't know you. But the mullah was insist again that he has been invited for the feast. The servant laughed at him and he asked him to go, otherwise he will beat him if he not go. Then the servant replied, "My master friends are noblemen and kings." Children, who are rich man's friends? A rich man's friends are noblemen and kings. So Mullah went home. He changed his appearance. He wear a silk garments. He put best cap on his head and he added a high colored coat. After he got ready with smiling to himself. Again he went to rich man's house and knocked at the door. The servant opened it. This time the servant bowed respectfully and welcomed in honor. After they all are welcomed in a good manner, and they gave a special seat for Mullah at the feast. The food arrived and they first served the feast to Mullah Nasruddin. He smiled at everyone and he began to get busy with his food, but he did not eat the food. So all are asking to Mullah, "What are you doing?" Like that. But the mullah was started to pour the soup in his cap, after crumpled the bread and put on his shoulders. Again he took the shish kebab and fed it to his slaves. Children, do you know why the Mullah Nasruddin was doing like that? Come on, let's see. Mullah said, I arrived at first time with the rag clothes. You not give a feast and turn me away. But now I dressed in expensive clothes and ornaments, so you treat me with honor. This is because of my clothes, you not welcoming me. So this delicious feast is only fit for my dresses, not for me. The rich man felt very shame on himself, so he asked him to forgive for his foolishness. He told him that he was blind because I saw only your clothes, not a person. He realized his mistakes, so he decided I will never again judge people by their clothes they wear. He said, I will never do like this. Finally, a rich man was realized his mistakes and asked apology to the Mullah Nasruddin. This lesson moral is don't judge a book by its cover. Children, have you all understood this story? Thank you, my dears.